Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here in Hamburg for the 29th World Ports Conference, and I thank you for the opportunity. I have a few slides to recap the Port of Los Angeles' air quality efforts to date and share with you several of the initiatives that we plan to focus on in the coming years. When we look at the big picture surrounding environmental stewardship, we recognize that programs we initiate must balance environmental, economic, and community concerns. This is as true with our air quality programs as it is with our other initiatives. In our portfolio of cargo and non-cargo business alike, we spend a great deal of time working with stakeholders in each of these areas as we carry out planning activities for the future. So as we look towards our future in the area of air quality, we look for programs that help our organization strike this sustainable balance and opportunities that will help us meet new challenges, especially in the areas of greenhouse gas reduction, climate change, energy management, and supply chain efficiency. I'll talk about each of these in a moment, but I'd like to share a little background first. In 2006, faced with growing opposition to port development due to air quality concerns, the Port of Los Angeles and neighboring Port of Long Beach jointly created a San Pedro Bay Clean Air Action Plan that established goals for reduction of emissions in three key quality pollutant categories: diesel particulate matter, oxides of nitrogen, and sulfur. As many know here, this monumental effort was due in no small part to the leadership of my predecessor and former IAPH President, Dr. Geraldine Natz. In the U.S., diesel particulate matter is considered a carcinogen. The last two pollutants, NOx and SOx, are recognized as precursors to ozone formation, a key contributor to climate change. Our efforts to reduce emissions for these three pollutant categories have been the primary focus on our side for the last decade. Fortunately, we've exceeded our initial 5-year goals and to date have achieved an 80% reduction in diesel particulate matter, nearly 60% reduction in NOx, and a little over 90% reduction in SOx. The sustainable DPM and NOx reductions, in large part, came from replacing all of the old drayage trucks at the port with new commercial fleet of modern, United States Environmental Protection Agency emissions-compliant trucks. The aggressive SOx emissions reductions are due in part to shore powering more ships, strong carrier participation in our voluntary vessel speed reduction program within 20 miles of our shoreline, and ongoing local, federal, and international mandates to use low sulfur fuel in ocean-going vessels. Due in large part to the IAPH's advocacy for the IMO to promulgate an emissions control area for North America and the Caribbean, we are fortunate that sulfur oxide emissions continue to trend in the appropriate direction. We continue to update the Clean Air Action Plan, and in 2010, its iteration created an overall health risk reduction standard and goal of reducing population-weighted cancer risk of port-related diesel particulate matter by 85% between the years of 2005 and 2020. Because we know that even small amounts of emissions from port sources can still add up to a tremendous amount of overall emissions, we know that the 2016 plan and its update must continue to develop strategies to reduce key pollutant emissions, especially those that contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. Looking forward, to reduce greenhouse gases, we know that we have to reduce CO2 emissions. To do that, we must look at ways to reduce our reliance on combustible-based engines. Despite increasingly cleaner technology, these engines continue to produce greenhouse gases. Because of this reality, for several years now, we've been exploring how zero-emissions equipment can be integrated into our supply chain. We focus mainly on trucks and cargo handling equipment, but other efforts to include our funding for successful development of the world's first hybrid electric tugboat, which operated by Foss Maritime, may come to fruition. Many of the other innovations that we are testing at the port, electric yard tractors, drayage trucks, for example, are done through Technology Advancement Program that we created and co-fund with the Port of Long Beach. PortTech Los Angeles, a technology development incubator that we also co-founded a few years ago, is designed to attract technology startups and accelerate the development of research and development into practical application. The blue rubber-tired gantry crane pictured here is also a Technology Advancement Program project. It uses heavy-duty capacitors to store regenerated energy as the crane operates. It allows to have much smaller diesel engine and produce more than 80% reduction in emissions when compared to a conventional rubber-tired gantry crane. Despite these technology advances, we do have challenges ahead of us. In the area of greenhouse gas reduction, earlier this year, United States President Barack Obama signed an executive order that set the goal for U.S. government to cut its greenhouse gas emissions by 40% from the 2008 levels by the year 2025. Recently, Governor Jerry Brown of the state of California issued an executive order to cut emissions to 40% below 1990 levels by the year 2030. This target will help California meet its goal of an 80% reduction in emissions below 1990 levels by the year 2050. The US EPA is also considering action to tighten national ozone standards from 75 parts per billion to somewhere between 60 and 70 parts per billion. Southern California has the highest ozone levels in the United States and is an extreme non-attainment of the current ozone standards. So more stringent rules would put our port under additional pressure to further reduce emissions, but it is a call we must answer. Of course, collaboration with other ports is essential in making meaningful progress towards greenhouse gas reduction worldwide and reducing climate impacts. To this end, our collaboration with the IAPH members and other ports through channels like World Ports Climate Initiative, as well as our co-creation of the Pacific Ports Clean Air Collaborative, which involves a number of IAPH member ports, are invaluable and vital collaboration channels for us to reach future environmental milestones. I want to especially commend the efforts of the IAPH World Ports Climate Initiative, an outstanding forum for our ports to share technical expertise and develop industry-leading programs. Among the host of programs developed over recent years in concert with the IAPH, we are proud to be part of the greenhouse gas initiatives carried out by WPCI. On other collaborative fronts, we also recently engaged the RAND Corporation in a very interesting study of climate adaptation. RAND developed a model for us to evaluate the extent to which our port infrastructure will need to be upgraded for a faster rate due to normal climate change. The study is helping us identify parts of our infrastructure that will need upgrading earlier than normal in the decades ahead versus infrastructure that can remain through its full cycle. This is an interesting model that can be applied in other areas and other ports around the world, as we're pleased that we had the opportunity to help RAND develop it. The opportunity now for replication is before us. If you would like to know more about this, please reach out to me or our other Port of LA members, Arlie Baker and Eric Harris, who are here with me this week. Energy management and related infrastructure is also critical to our success. We baselined our power consumption during the 2011 and 2012 fiscal year at a time when our customers were paying upwards of $30 million and consuming more than 230,000 megawatt hours of power. In the future, we see this number growing 3- and 4-fold due to the transition to non-combustion-based engine sources that I previously mentioned. We will not only depend more on electric power, but we will be there to ensure that the developments will continue and overcome weather outages, catastrophic events, and other unforeseen incidents. Of course, renewable energy is also a part of this conversation. In this area right now, our biggest play is the development of a 12-megawatt solar power program at the Port of LA. We expect to expand our renewable energy efforts in the coming years while also assisting our customers in their pursuit of renewable projects from solar to transitioning to high-efficiency LED lighting. We even have a terminal customer interested in developing a microgrid, Pacia stevedoring, that would enable their terminal to operate with power in the event of a crisis. This is an interesting possibility and one of 3 projects our customer is studying for viability right now. As most of you know, improving terminal efficiency and cargo velocity through our port is of paramount importance to us right now. And it also has a simple environmental benefit. Cargo efficiency reduces emissions. As we contend with the new era of larger vessels and carrier alliance dynamics, becoming more efficient involves new levels of coordination at the terminals and throughout the supply chain that flows through our ports. To this end, we have implemented several initiatives in recent months, including an interoperable chassis pool, staging areas for peel-off cargo programs, wherein the specific shippers are blocked and stowed in terminals for easy and swift movement off property. Trucks come into the terminal and peel off the top container from the block and then take that box to an off-dock facility for sorting and drayage to final destination. Other test projects include a new Uber-like mobile phone application from a company in Venice, California called Cargomatic that connects truckers, cargo owners, and terminals to transport goods more efficiently. And I'll be glad to share more about these initiatives in our discussion later on. That's our summary of our present and forward-looking clean air initiatives. And as I wrap up, I wanted to share with you a few photos of some of our current port-funded technologies that are in development. Right now, 2 companies are finalizing government certification of mobile emissions capturing systems, whereby barge-mounted cranes lower bonnets over smokestacks of ships while at berth. The emissions are captured and treated in different ways depending on the device. The advantage is that this ship is sitting at berth potentially and would not have to run its auxiliary engines on ultra-low sulfur fuel if all the emissions can be captured in this fashion. These devices have potential to reduce upwards of a ton of emissions per ship call. And these vessels can also be managed if they don't have alternative marine power capability. We're hoping that the technology will be certified sometime during the course of year 2015. Finally, on the lower portion are photos of all-electric heavy-duty trucks and yard tractors being developed by several manufacturers and are presently in active testing at our port. This is encouraging because we've spent nearly a decade and more than $6 million to assist in the development of this technology, which we believe will be key to our future emissions reduction strategy. On that note, I would like to thank you for your time and the privilege to stand before you today.